husband fail.
Meanwhile, Neil Roper awoke in hospital to be told the heartbreaking news.
Just completely shocking, you know, you don't know what to think, really. What can you think? Your mate's been shot, and he's died, like.
All I wanted to do was see Neil, to see if he was okay. And that was it. I just wanted to see if he was all right.
You don't know what to think, you just... You know, because of what I've done, her husband died, so...
The two of us just kind of sat and looked at one another because there were no words that we could say to one another for what had happened the night before, because it was so unreal.
By day 2 of the investigation, the police were building a clearer picture of the gunman.
Can you roll this window down a bit? I'm just close to it. No, I did not steal the car.
They already had his voice from the patrol car and knew he had a North American accent.
Are you sure it's coming out stolen?
Now they were about to get a face to go with it. This fuzzy CCTV footage from Dib Lane showed a man buying a copy of the Racing Post just minutes before the shooting. The police felt this had to be the killer.
We had to put all the information out that we possibly could to the public because we felt that we needed the public's help here. We had to really hit the decks running with this. We were checking a lot of people out. We were checking our known criminals out, trying to find that piece of information that could give us the name to go with the killer.
The press conference paid dividends. It prompted a call from the public and, crucially, a name, Nathan Wayne Coleman.
The caller gave us the name Nathan, together with a mobile phone number, and said that Nathan, being a registered doorman, had a black BMW and had been trying to get a gun. We'd got something to go on now.
As well as getting a name, detectives quickly got an address. This police video shows officers breaking into what they believed was the killer's flat. Inside, the rooms were untidy, but amongst the mess, there were some vital clues. A bulletproof vest, bodybuilding supplements, a doorman's suit. More importantly, there were bank cards and correspondence, the name on them, Nathan Wayne Coleman. There remained just one piece of outstanding evidence that would link the flat's owner to Ian Broadhurst's murder.
We wanted to find fingerprints in that flat that we could connect to the BMW, and those results came through at about 2 o'clock that morning. Now we've identified the person. The next step is to find him.
Officers recovered Nathan Coleman's doorman's license. This is the photo they took from it. For the first time, they had a clear picture of the killer's face. The police were getting closer, but would they catch him before he hurt someone else?
It was an investigation that had to move at such a pace because we knew that, you know, it was a life and death situation here, and this was as serious as it gets.
So how long is this going to... Am I going to be gone all night then?
Dozens of people contacted the police to say they thought they knew the gunman, but one caller stood out.
I heard the name Nathan Coleman. It just instantly rung a bell.
David Costello worked at Spacemakers, a large storage facility just 2 miles from the murder scene. Here, detectives got their clearest indication yet of just how dangerous their fugitive was.
Instantly got on the computer system here, just made sure that Nathan Coleman was one of the people that stored here. When we did the check on the security system then, it came to light he'd actually turned up the day before. So I just rang the police straight away.
The killer had rented a lock-up unit at Spacemakers, and it was home to a deadly store. This CCTV footage showed the killer, who had now dyed his hair, calmly paying a visit just 2 days after the shooting. When officers opened the unit, they realized how prepared he was to use violence again. It was packed with shells, gunpowder, and a press for making bullets, a homemade arsenal in waiting.
He was, quite calmly, coming back to the city where he committed this murder, arming himself to the teeth with ammunition. And why? Why was he doing this? We could think for only one reason. He was prepared to go to any means and any lengths to prevent being caught, and that worried us greatly.
Detectives now knew he was armed and willing to kill again. They also knew that time was running out. As they searched, the killer was looking for someone who could help him flee from Britain.
I heard there was an American looking for me who wouldn't give his name, and he was coming around all the clubs and asking for me.
Piers Coyle is a bouncer who worked the doors with Nathan Coleman for almost a year.
He was actually coming wanting me to help him escape, all due to a conversation we had several years previous of how you could escape from England if you had to. He didn't really tell me that much about his life in America, but when he did, it constantly contradicted himself every time he talked. It was almost as if he was trying to build a history for himself.
But as 2003 came to a close, that history finally caught up with Ian Broadhurst's killer. Everything pointed to a criminal past. And 4 days after the shooting, all the pieces finally fell into place, thousands of miles away.
We got information from the FBI that they'd identified the fingerprints from that stolen BMW as David Bieber, a man who they wanted for a murder in 1995.
What's your country of birth then?
Canada.
Bieber had lied during his arrest. He wasn't from Canada. He was from much further south. "5,000 miles from Leeds is Florida's Gulf Coast, the real birthplace of David Bieber. Here, amid the glorious beaches and endless sunshine, Ian Broadhurst's murderer had already had a deadly impact.
Dave Bieber was as calm and cool as he could be.
As a teenager, Bobby Ammons attended the high school, where Bieber was a sports hero. But he later watched as his friend became addicted to bodybuilding, allowing steroids to take over his life. Bieber later joined the Marines, but quickly realised it wasn't for him.
He's never really been great on authority. He went AWOL like 15 times just to go to Vegas so he could gamble and have fun. When he would come back, he would not listen to anybody. Didn't matter what kind of authority. I mean, he used to sleep in his classes in the Marines. He wouldn't listen to what anybody said. So think about being shouted at and they're told to do this, and I'm not doing it. And he just doesn't do it.
Bieber may not have taken orders well, but it seemed he was more comfortable giving them. In February 1995, he was suspected of arranging the murder of a fellow bodybuilder and steroid dealer. Marcus Mueller was found with gunshots to his head and stomach by his girlfriend, Danielle Labelle. This is the 911 call that followed.
Do you need the ambulance? Oh, he's already dead. Are you in the same room with him? Yes. Is he breathing? No, he's dead. He's been dead for a while. Somebody shot him like an hours ago or yesterday. They shot him in the face.
When I got in there and I looked at Marcus, Marcus was a massive man. He was huge. And he was laid on his back right there at the foyer of the front door.
Lieutenant Barry Futch was one of the first officers on the scene.
It was obvious that he had just come up and answered the door and was shot there. That's the only way it could have happened. There was no sign of any struggle. There was nothing that happened.
Inside the house, police found steroids and guns. Outside sat David Bieber.
I talked to David for a little bit. He didn't really have much to say, but he was just sitting there. There was something wrong with this whole scenario.
A love of bodybuilding had made Bieber and Mueller friends, but they'd recently fallen out over their illegal steroid business and their affection for Danielle Labelle. In the rest of her 911 call, she clearly identified who she thought was responsible.
You shot him. I think they shot him.
David, of course, became a suspect at that time. Whether he knew it, he was definitely going to be a suspect.
Bieber would later be arrested and questioned, but all the time he'd be planning violent revenge against the very detective who was hunting him.
David said, well, if we're not going to kill him, we'll kill his sons. That'll be a way to get to him. We didn't know what David was going to do now, especially now.
Florida, 1995. The man who would later kill British PC Ian Broadhurst faces questions about the murder of fellow bodybuilder and steroid dealer Marcus Mueller. This is the first time that police interview has been heard.
Tell me about yourself, Marcus.
We were friends, but not real close friends.
How long you guys been friends?
I actually met him probably almost a year ago when he first came into town.
Where did you meet
him? At the gym. You know, if I saw him in the gym or whatnot, hey, how you doing? What's up?
Did you kill this guy?
No.
He was calm the whole time, a little smirk on his face.
You got all the reason in the world to not like this guy.
Yeah, we smoothed everything out. I have no problem with him. I wish the guy was around. I don't like that y'all are trying to make me out to be a suspect, because I'm not.
Bieber may have helped arrange Mueller's murder, but he hadn't pulled the trigger. He was happy to let police take away his guns for forensic tests. And even happier when those tests proved negative and his guns were handed back to him.
He was just smiling, sort of posing. He was real arrogant, cocky in those photos. He was glad to get him back.
Although Lieutenant Futch had insufficient evidence against Bieber, he believed that he was involved.
I actually told him that I knew he was involved and that we were going to prove it. And eventually we would prove that he was involved in this murder. He just stayed calm the whole time. It was like, nope, you won't get me.
It took another 6 months and another shooting for Futch to get his chance. This time, the victim was an ex-girlfriend who managed to survive the gun attack. A tip-off led police to Bieber's criminal associate. Under questioning, he said he had arranged both shootings and he'd done it for Bieber.
David's talking to you about Mueller and how he'd like to have Mueller what? What's the word he used?
Killed. You're the middleman on all this, aren't you?
Futch was now convinced Bieber was guilty of arranging murder. And as the interview continued, he was led to believe that his suspect had another potential victim in mind.
Were y'all planning on hitting anybody else? You said you didn't want anybody else around?
I mentioned you.
Why did he want to kill me?
Because what you were putting through.
David Bieber was now a wanted man, but according to his friend, he'd kill anyone who tried to take his freedom away.
Cop. You know, what's the difference? Don't get run up.
That David actually was capable of hiring somebody to do it. I didn't know if somebody was stupid enough to do it. My kids left. I didn't leave for quite a while, so that they wouldn't be around here, because we didn't know what David was going to do now, especially now.
Bieber knew exactly what he was doing. When Lieutenant Futch went to arrest him, he had gone.
A lot of these strips, little strip malls, little bars within the strip malls, clubs, those are the type of hangouts that he would like, that he'd enjoy to hang out in.
Lieutenant Charlie Ferranti was responsible for tracking down fugitives like David Bieber.
He was attracted to places like that because of the women that were in those places. And it was basically a matter of constantly going, checking, showing up.